Bonjour! Welcome to the mouth-watering world of French, première partie. We've been eating croissants and pastries for several weeks now, and we're sure we have enough of a handle on French to get you going. You'll be bowled over by all you'll learn about verbs, adjectives, and nouns, and heck, just French in general.
We have to warn you, however, that we are merely a supplement to your learning and study of French. We provide you with the basics and expose you to how French sounds and looks. To truly learn French, and for that matter, to do well in your class, you must go to class. Furthermore, French skills only improve through practice, so you must practice. Speak French to any Frenchies you can find. We can give you the tools, but we can't practice for you.
With this Standard Deviance DVD program, you're in control of your learning experience as never before. Check this out.
You'll always start off from a main menu. Anytime you want to start over, just select Menu on your keypad. That'll bring you back to the main menu. From there, you've got lots of choices. You can view the program straight through, select which lessons you want to view, review a series of French conversations, check out some helpful info, take the French Fried Final, a comprehensive final exam, or learn more about Cerebellum, the creators of this DVD program. You can also hit Previous and Next at any time in the program to jump between major sections without returning to the main menu. Use the outline on the inside cover of your DVD package to guide you.
Before we get started, we should tell you what our approach to teaching French is going to be. The truth is, all kinds of linguists and foreign language teachers have spent a lot of time trying to figure out the best way to teach you to speak and understand French. The most effective method they've developed is called the functional approach. The emphasis of the functional approach is to make sure the student can communicate and accomplish tasks in the foreign language. That means you learn to use phrases and full sentences. You don't learn just isolated words without context. Words and concepts are introduced through demonstration. You'll acquire good grammar from practicing the proper French in a variety of contexts.
The problem with translating is that you're always changing the French in your head into English. That slows things down quite a bit and prevents you from really learning French. The only way you'll ever know French is to be able to think French.
As we go on, you'll learn phrases and idioms and words. A lot of times, we won't tell you what every word means. That's okay. It's more important that you know how to use a phrase to communicate your ideas and to accomplish tasks than for you to know the meaning and function of every word you're saying. I mean, how many English-speaking people know what gerunds are? But we use them in English every day.
The bottom line is just like we told you earlier. We'll give you a lot of what you need to get by, but the only way you're really going to learn this stuff is by speaking and writing French.
Part 1. Au début.
A lot of things about French and English are similar. We use the same alphabet. For the most part, we construct sentences the same way. But one of the big differences between the two languages is in pronunciation. When you speak French, you use your lips, tongue, throat, and even your nose.
That can make French sound kind of weird to you.
Qu'est-ce que tu dis? Tu penses que le français a l'air bizarre?
You see?
The best way to get a handle on the French pronunciation is to learn the French alphabet. Once you've got that down, then you'll be a long way on the road to being able to pronounce French.
Section A, the alphabet in French.
When we go through the alphabet, you'll be able to see the mouth of the person pronouncing it. This may seem weird, but it's important that you see what they do with their mouth when they're speaking, because you're going to have to do the same thing with your mouth.
Let's go!
The French alphabet has the same letters as our alphabet. They're just pronounced differently.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z.
Okay, now before you rewind and watch that a couple more times, there are several letters that you should pay special attention to. They are G, J, E, Q, and R. Pronounce G like a soft J, G. And G, which as you can hear, is pronounced like a soft G, G. E is kind of weird. That sounds like someone punched you in the gut. E. For Q and U, you have to make a puckery face so you can say the Q and U correctly. R is often the hardest French letter for Americans to pronounce. It sounds kind of like the word air, but the end of the word is kind of guttural. See? R. Practice that one. R. Okay, now go back and watch the alphabet a couple times, then practice.
From now on, whenever we talk about the spelling of French words, we're going to pronounce the letters the French way. Make sure you're comfortable with the pronunciation of the French alphabet.
Now it's time for accents and vowels, in that order.
Section B, accents and Frenchy vowels.
You've seen accent marks before. They're those funny little lines over the vowels that surely must mean something.
Well, I guess they do mean something, huh? And don't call me Shirley.
If you are familiar with the word fiancé, you have encountered the mystery of accents before.
Accents are used for two reasons: to change the pronunciation of the vowel and to differentiate between words that are spelled alike but mean different things. Accents are considered part of the spelling of a word, so you're just going to have to memorize where they go.
Let's run through the accents you'll run into in French. They are l'accent aigu, l'accent grave, l'accent circonflexe, and le tréma. Remember when we said accents always went with vowels? Well, we lied. There's one accent that goes with a consonant, and that's la cédille.
Honestly, the names of the accents don't get used much, except when you're talking about the spellings of words. When you're memorizing how to spell French words, make sure you memorize which accents are where. The accents are just as important as the letters.
Here's an example of how important accents are. Often in class, you'll hear your instructor say, répétez, s'il vous plaît, which of course means, repeat after me, please. However, if your instructor leaves out the first accent in répétez and says, répétez, s'il vous plaît, the instructor is actually saying, please pass gas again. Kind of different, huh?
So those are the accents: l'accent aigu, l'accent grave, l'accent circonflexe, le tréma, and la cédille. We'll go over what they do as we go through the vowels.
Before we get too far, we have to share a very special property which French vowels possess. French vowels are tense, which means you keep your mouth in the same position the entire time you make the vowel sound. Let's use ah for an example.
In English, when you make the A sound, it sounds like this. A. See how my jaw moved as I said it? A. Now watch the French pronunciation of A. Ah. The sound was short and my jaw didn't move at all as I said the vowel. Ah. All the French vowels are like that, so keep it in mind while you're learning things. If you insist on saying French vowels like English vowels, you'll sound like this guy.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Pierre.
So let's go through those vowels, shall we?
Ah. Sometimes the ah can take l'accent grave, which is that one. Even with l'accent grave, the sound is still ah.
Has a bunch of different pronunciations. The most popular pronunciation sounds just like the letter When the takes l'accent aigu, it sounds more like the English long A, like in lake. That sound is eh. Remember to keep the vowel sound tense.
Incidentally, there are a couple of other vowel situations that create the A sound. They are A-I, E-S, E-Z, E-R. Watch out for them.
An with l'accent grave has a shorter sound, more like the E in the English word let. A good word with an with an accent grave is the word for mother, mère.
A good French word that has both those kinds of is élève, which is a student. Here, watch. Un élève. The part is just an article like a or the, so you can ignore it for now. You'll also notice that there's one more in élève, at the end. Like in English, when there's an at the end of the word, it's silent and you ignore it. That's why élève is pronounced the way it is. If the at the end has an accent aigu, then you pronounce it, like in café. L'accent circonflexe, this guy, shows up over the sometimes, but it doesn't really do anything. The sound it makes is just like with the accent grave. You just have to remember to put l'accent circonflexe where it belongs, or you've spelled the word wrong.
The can also take un tréma, one of these. This little guy lets you know to pronounce the vowel it's over. Yeah, I know, pronounce the vowel. Seems kind of obvious. But check out this word, Noël. It means Christmas, and it's also a name. Now, you haven't done O's yet, but you can still follow along. Without le tréma, you would pronounce it Nol. But with le tréma, you know to say the as well. So you say Noël.
We just did le circonflexe and le tréma for E, but the accent circonflexe and le tréma do pretty much the same thing to every vowel, so we don't need to go into much detail with them in the future. You're learning.
Does that mean you're not going to do le tréma and l'accent circonflexe for every vowel?
Yes, we aren't going over the effect of le tréma and l'accent circonflexe because they're pretty much the same for whichever vowel they're over.
Next vowel, the E. This one's easy. It sounds like the English E, but is short and tense like all the other French vowels. E. See? Now that you know how to say E, you can also pronounce Y because they sound the same. Y actually means a Greek E. Isn't that neat?
The E can take l'accent circonflexe and le tréma. You know how those work.
O sounds just like it does in the alphabet. O. Sometimes you'll see un circonflexe on an O.
Our last fun-loving vowel is the U. This is probably the most difficult vowel because you have to make the sound through your nose as well as your mouth. Just pucker up and say U through your nose. See? You just said it. U.
Let's practice this sound in a couple of words. Lune, lune, brune, brune. That is all the vowels we have to deal with. A, E, I, O, and U.
So, what's the deal with la cédille? Well, that goes on a C when you want the C to make a soft S-like sound. Just like in English, when a C is in front of an A, O, or U, it makes a hard K-like sound. In French, you can get around that by using la cédille.
Here, look at this French word, le garçon, which means the boy. The C has une cédille, which makes it have the soft sound, garçon. Without la cédille, the word would be garçon. Handy little bugger, la cédille.
Well, we've reached the end of part 1, and it wasn't that bad, was it? Of course, whenever you come to a part break like this, you should stop and rewind so that you can practice the French you've learned. But whenever we come to a part break, we'll have a big conversation that demonstrates the concepts you've learned and give you another chance to hear and practice them. But since there really isn't much in this part to review, we're just going to warn you about 2 words, or really 4 words. Oui et non. Did you catch that? Yes and no. Oui et non. Or you could say yes or no. Oui ou non. These words are going to come up all the time, so remember them. Oui, non, et for and ou for or.
You know what? We feel really bad about this, but there's one more thing we have to talk about, and that's a thing called a cognate. Cognates are words which have common ancestors, but are in different languages. Why does that matter? Well, there are a lot of words in French that have cousins in English. The words sound alike and even look alike, and they usually mean the same thing.
Take a look at this word, for example. Information. Looks like the English word for information, right? They mean the same thing. So the smart kid learning French knows to look for cognates.
French and English have a lot of cognates because English is derived in large part from French. So when you see a cognate, you probably do have a good idea about what the word means. Once in a while, a tricky word will come up, a cognate that doesn't mean exactly the same thing in French that it does in English. Don't be afraid to use your French-English dictionary.
Which brings us to another point. Get a French-English dictionary and use it. Like we've said before, we're here to help you, but there are some things we just can't do. We can't be a dictionary, so buy one, and we can't practice pronunciation for you.
Part 2. Mes Préférences.
Okay, I don't know about you, but I think that we've done enough pronunciations. I'm just itching to get to the good stuff. French talking.
Section A, small talk.
If you're ever going to make any friends, you need to know how to greet people and introduce yourself. Check it out.
Say you're at a party in France. Everyone decides to play 10 minutes in a closet, and you and Pierre are chosen. So, in you go. You don't know Pierre, and he doesn't know you.
Well, first you say hello, and then you introduce yourself. Saying hello is easy enough. You may have heard the word before. It's bonjour. So try that first.
Bonjour.
Bonjour. You could also say Salut if it's someone you know well and you want to be informal. Or you could say bonsoir if it's evening. Next, you might want to try some small talk. How's it going is always a good one. To ask that, you say comment vas-tu? You could also try ça va or quoi de neuf. We'll stick with the first one for now.
Comment vas-tu?
Bien, merci. Et toi?
Now you're in trouble because he clearly asked you a question. The first part, bien, merci, is French for good, thanks. Bien is good, merci is thanks. Toi is the familiar form of the word you that you use when talking to people you know well or are your own age. Now we can piece together that Pierre said good, thanks, and you?
I'm doing very well, thanks.
Nope, you have to answer him in French. The same thing you just said is très bien, merci.
Of course, you may not feel very good, or you might feel more colloquial. You could say, okay, comme ci, comme ça. You could be not bad, pas mal, or great, formidable, or even super, super.
Très bien, merci.
Another way you could have gone about this whole how are you doing thing is if you had said
Ça va?
Which is just another way of saying how's it going. Then Pierre could have said ça va, meaning it was going okay, or ça ne va pas, meaning that things are going poorly. He also could have said any of the other things that you could have said before, like comme ci, comme ça, pas mal, or très bien.
Ça va?
Pas mal.
Okay, things seem to be going pretty well. You got the small talk out of the way, so now it's time to let Pierre know who you are.
You're not getting me on this one. Tell me how first.
The way to say my name is in French is je m'appelle. Got that? Je m'appelle. My name is. Then you just fill in your name.
Je m'appelle Tessa.
Enchanté.
In French, whenever you officially meet someone, it's polite to say enchanté. That means charmed. Now, in English, saying charmed makes you look like a dork, but in French, pretty much expected. Now that Pierre knows who you are, he'll probably introduce himself.
Je m'appelle Pierre.
Enchanté.
There is always the possibility that Pierre wouldn't offer his name right away, without your asking. To ask Pierre his name, say, comment t'appelles-tu?
Je m'appelle Tessa. Comment t'appelles-tu?
Je m'appelle Pierre.
Enchanté.
Okay, so now your 10 minutes are up and it's time to introduce your new friend Pierre to your old friends. To introduce someone, say, je vous présente, and then fill in their name.
Je vous présente Pierre.
Enchanté.
Bonjour, Pierre.
There's a trick, though. You say je vous présente when you introduce someone to a group, or when you introduce someone to a person with whom you must be polite, like your grandmother. If you were just introducing Pierre to your friend Azriel, then you would say je te présente. The change is because you're speaking to someone you're on familiar terms with, and there's only one of them. We'll get into this in more depth in a few minutes. So, introduce Pierre to Azriel.
Azriel, je te présente Pierre.
easy enough, right? Before we go on, we want to do one more, but this time we'll show you how to meet and greet someone you have to be polite with. Like a professor, a policeman, a head of state, your grandparents, you get the idea.
In this conversation, you'll notice that the people always use vous, which is the formal form of you. The only time te or tu, the informal form of you, is used is later in the dialogue when the policeman is on a first-name basis with Hubert. But we're ruining it. Here, watch and listen.
Bonjour.
Bonjour.
Comment allez-vous?
Je vais bien, merci.
Je m'appelle Hubert. Comment vous appelez-vous?
Je m'appelle Jeanne. Enchantée.
Enchanté.
Madame la reine, je vous présente Hubert. Enchantée. Hubert, je te présente Elisabeth, la reine d'Angleterre.
Enchanté.
Section B, Introduction to ER verbs and talking about stuff you like.
As you're probably aware, there's more to meeting people than just saying hello and telling people your name. You also need to talk about you. Tell people what you like, what you don't like, that kind of thing. These are called your preferences. In French, they're called tes préférences. Or, if you're talking about your own preferences, you call them mes préférences.
So the first thing on our agenda is to learn how to say you like something. Here's the situation. You're at a party with a bunch of French people. You're standing next to the stereo, trying to look unobtrusive.
But when the music stops, a French guy named Robert comes wandering over to change the disc, and he's especially friendly. He starts things off by saying,
Tu aimes la musique rap?
You can tell by his tone of voice that he's asking you a question. And because some of the French words are similar to English ones, you might even know that he's talking about rap music.
The first thing he said was, tu aimes, which means you like, and the second part of the sentence, quite obviously, is rap music. So, he's asking you if you like rap music. Of course you do, who doesn't? Huh? So, you just have to tell him, yes, I like rap music. The word aime means like, and as you may have heard, the word je means I. When the French say je and aime together, they run them together into one sound, j'aime. So, now you can just mimic the sentence Robert made.
Oui, j'aime la musique rap.
Okay.
That's another convenient thing about French. The French use the word okay just like we do. So you just said, yes, I like rap music, by saying, oui, j'aime la musique rap. And Robert said, okay, and put rap in the stereo.
We need to talk a little about verbs, just so you don't get confused.
In French, every verb has many forms. Which form you use depends on a bunch of factors, like who is talking, whether you're talking about the present, the past, or the future, and a whole bunch of other things. The most basic form of the verb is called the infinitive. All other forms are derived from the infinitive.
In English, infinitives are forms of a verb that have a to in front of them, like to go, to have, or to throw. French infinitives mean the same thing.
Whenever we talk about a French verb or introduce you to a new one, we'll almost always use the infinitive. Later, you'll learn to use the present tense forms of almost any verb, but here, for right now, you're just going to use the infinitive and the I form of the verb. The I form is also called the first person singular.
So, we're going to teach you the verbs aimer, which means to like, adorer, which means to love, préférer, to prefer, and détester, to hate.
To make this interesting, we'll see how several different people feel about John Tesh. They're all going to use the I form, or the je form of the verbs we just learned. Je, as you might have figured out, is the first person singular, the equivalent of I. So, listen carefully and rewind as much as necessary.
J'aime John Tesh.
J'adore John Tesh.
Je préfère John Tesh.
Je déteste John Tesh.
Now that you have that stuff down, you can talk about all kinds of things you like and hate. You just need to know the French word for whatever you're liking or hating.
If we watch Valérie and Hélène talk about what they like and hate, we can pick up a bunch of things to talk about liking and hating.
J'aime la musique rock et la musique classique.
Tu aimes le sport?
J'adore le foot.
Alors, tu n'aimes pas la télévision?
Oui, je déteste la télévision. Je préfère la radio.
J'aime l'université, les restaurants et le cinéma.
Not all of those things may have been entirely clear on the first viewing, so we're going to go through and show you what all of those things were. Once you have the terms down, go back and watch Valérie et Hélène again.
La musique rock. La musique classique.
Le sport. Le foot.
La télévision, or la télé.
La radio.
L'université.
Le restaurant.
Le cinéma.
Practice these words. Rewind now.
You might have noticed while watching the subtitles that sometimes they used the word je, and sometimes it was a j and an apostrophe connecting it to the next word. Whenever the word after je starts with a vowel, abbreviate the je to j apostrophe and run them together. This is called elision. It helps make the French sound smooth and not choppy. The French like their language to be smooth and suave, so they try not to have vowel sounds coincide. Like when Sophie and Hélène used je and aimer together. Instead of saying je aime, they say j'aime.
J'aime la musique rock et la musique classique.
Actually, a lot of words get abbreviated before vowel sounds. Je, me, te, ce, le, la, de. There's a whole bunch of them. Don't worry, you'll run into more of them later.
These liking and hating words can be kind of limiting. What if you want to say that you don't like something, but you don't necessarily hate it? Do that by using the construction ne pas. Here, watch. Sophie doesn't like la télé.
Je n'aime pas